It's actually me! Surprise! Okay, I promised this video wouldn't be far away from the last one, so today we are finally going to look at this. Okay, so we have here our custom front panel, which if you remember the shitty one that I made a while back out of cardboard, I decided to redesign this. Beauty of this has been 3D printed. I've designed it in CAD, so today we're going to have a look at this. Needs modified. I'll show you why it needs modified in a minute, but I'll show you how I've designed this, how I've made it. This very kindly, my dad has 3D printed this for me, and I think it gives a nice new dimension to the front of the bike. However, as it stands, where it sits right now, it points up the way, where in reality it needs to be perpendicular to the floor. Otherwise the lights are going to go, it looks like that. Remember that Morgan that came out and it had the cross eyes? I don't want it to look like that. I want this to be perpendicular to the floor. So that means it needs modified, and I'll show you why. Because the camera's set up all wrong. Christ. So right now, if I were to leave this, then it'd be pointing towards the sky. In reality, I want it to be parallel. I want it perpendicular even. I think that will look good. It gives it a nice flat front to the bike, which is kind of what I'm going for anyway. So this still looks really cool, but however, if this was sat like this, there's going to be a gap here that I don't really want. See that? So what I want to do is redesign this so that that gap disappears. One of the ways you can do that is just by simply modifying this and bringing an extra bit further back. And that's all I really need to do to this model. It means once this is out of its home base, it doesn't look very good. It's got this big ugly bit on it, but what it means is when it's in situ, it's gonna look good. You're gonna have, essentially you're gonna have, it will be tucked further, it would look like it's tucked further back. It won't be, because my lights are quite long and this needs to be a certain length. So one way to do that is to use an angle finder. I'm going to pretend that I did this the first time, and the previous time I recorded this wasn't 5 minutes of me dicking around with where best to get this angle. But if we look at an angle finder, we kind of want to take this straight line as though this is a straight line. Actually, this way. Yeah, like this flump face should be straight. That's what I want. So if I take this angle finder and I use the base of these yokes as a reference point to get that angle, essentially I need to find what is in the way of, if this is perpendicular, if this face here is perpendicular to this face here, which it is, then ultimately I need to find whatever that angle is here, so that I can add that angle to the back of my plate, my face plate, and be somewhere hidden in here, so we don't see any edge of my faceplate. It flows nicely into somewhere in here, so you don't see it anymore. And I've just dropped it, so I'm not going to get it. But however, if we run here, for example, then we can see that pressing this hard down flat, this is nice and parallel, or that's nice and parallel to the ground, perpendicular to the ground even. Then I have an angle of 25 degrees that I have to find. That's the angle. The angle is 25 degrees between here and here. This is horribly complex. Let's go over to the whiteboard and make this a little bit simpler. Okay. Christ, where are my pens? Should have gone to Pen Island for some pens. Right, so this is our yolks, okay? The bigger yolks here. Okay. It's not our yolks, that's just suspension. This is our yolks. Okay? And then we've got this thing that sits in like that. And it looks crap at the moment because the lights are pointing that way, whereas in reality they need to be pointing, take a reference point on ground, they need to be pointing like that. Okay? But if I was just to leave that bit as it is, there's going to be a great gap here, which doesn't look very good. So, plan is to obviously get that nice point, and then just kind of extend this a little bit, slightly, just so that it sits in that space there. Okay, so to do that we need that angle that I just found, and I took the angle from here to there to make that vertical, and that's perpendicular to that, or that. So whatever that angle is, from there, do you know what I mean? That's too far forward because that angle is obviously wrong, but whatever this angle is. Okay, so here we've got my trusty MacBook, and we've got Autodesk. What have we got? Yeah, Autodesk Fusion 360 is the program I use for CAD. And it's very good. It's free for hobbyist builders who people want to use it. I think you just have to put your email address in and then do whatever you want. So I'm going to show you how I built this on CAD. So we'll do a little bit of a screen record, and then however I remember how to do that. Right. So I think we're recording, possibly. Yes. We'll close this. So if we roll back, fucking helicopters, I swear to God. So, first thing we did was, you can roll this back here. So we made a sketch. How do we show that? Here we go, sketch. So this is the original sketch of how we've built up this shape. So this is, I wanted it to be kind of slightly wider at the top than at the bottom, which is absolutely fine. You can do this any design you want. You can if you want to draw a gigantic phallic object, you can on CAD if you need to. You just have to kind of visualize it broken down. And the best way to imagine CAD is, if you wanted to make this can, for example, this tasty, delicious, not beer because it's only 12 o'clock type of juice. You see, it's circular. That's the point you make. This is circular the same way that this has got that strange shape on the back. So that shape that we see on the screen is this back piece here. If you then wanted to move that shape and turn it into a solid body, you would create an extrusion. So that's what we've done. The next few steps are how I've created that extrusion. A lot of sketches are hidden. Initially, what I've done is I created another plane that we can see here, a set distance away. So you'll notice on the shape that it doesn't really change, it's kind of fixed, and then it starts to change. So this plane is about, I can't remember what the distance is, looks like it's 20-30 centimeters away, which reflects the CAD program. I've created this plane, and I've created a sketch on this plane, and the reason we'll see why is, oh god, what have I done? We'll see why in a minute. Okay, so the next bit we want to do, these little bits here, the circles are what I was going to use for lights. They're just the mock-ups of the lights that I was going to buy, the high-sider lights that are going to be my main and my low beam. So I think the lights would be pretty shit in this, to be honest. But the lights on the Scrambler are crap as well, and that's something I'm going to get sorted this year. Okay, so next thing is I've created a third plane. We can see, I guess if we look at this again, the shape difference, it does change once it gets to a certain point. And the reason I've created so many planes, in reality, if I wanted this shape all the way, then I would create a plane. I would only create one plane, and I would extrude everything up the way from that plane. But I've not done that. I've had to go, here's a different shape, and I need it to morph into that smaller shape, hence the need for a third plane. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm not really sure. My dad's a teacher, I am not a teacher. Never been, enjoy teaching, but anyway. So that's that third face, you can see there. That's this little face here. That's what that face represented on my screen shows right now. Again, measurements are specific to my project. If you want to make something, you kind of have to have a rough idea. A good way to do this is just to get a sketch and get your head around what you actually need. Then you can start transferring that to CAD. So, covered in cat hair, nice. Next, we've got that shape. what we want to do is loft through, and the loft is where you pick. You say, this is my back face, I want it to come into my front face, if that makes sense. So you press the loft button, and as you can see on the screen, we have got a nice solid body now, a solid extrusion. Okay, so let's come out of that. Piss. Right, click up here. Right. The next thing we've done, I've made another sketch on here, but I don't know why. I can't remember. The next thing we've did that makes any real difference is we do something called a shell. So as you can see, this is about 3 millimeters thick all the way around. So to get that in the program, you do what's called a shell. And you essentially just, I think you select the back face, and then you create this shell, and this gets rid of. So if you go from there, that's a solid body. Let's hide some of these sketches now, they're annoying. That's a solid body, okay? There's no getting away from that. That's the model sees this as something that's just physically all of that material. And I've made it look like carbon fiber. You can go into the settings, and that's kind of why I've fucked about this a little bit. So anyway, we go right. Let's go. I'll show it so that we've got the back piece. Right. Well, let's shell this. Oh crap! Too much. There you go. And this gets rid of all the inner contents and makes it like a nice shell that you could eat out of if we didn't go and do the next phase, which is extruding, cutting away a face. So we've said, right, we want a hole that's in there, let's get rid of that material, let's cut that material away. Okay, and that's where this little hole comes from. Now we're at a point where it's too big, let's get rid of that. There we go. We're now at a point where I need to figure out how to add that additional plane of X amount of angle to then create that shape further back and get this thing angled round. We want this essentially to be vertical, even though it sits right now. It sits nicely in the face like that, which is it's this what we're doing. It's this here. We need to add. That sits like that. We need to make it vertical. I think we'll take it back to 25 degrees, 26 degrees, I think is the plane. I'm going to do a little quick sketch because I haven't a clue what I'm doing. Okay, I may or may not have picked up a hot water bottle. Say hello. Say hello. It's been a while. You're getting big and strong. So I've also solved the problem and how to do this. I realised I didn't want to bore everyone. So we'll head back to CAD and I will show you what I have done. Oh, excuse me, mister. Shift and 5. Okay, so this is what we had before. Okay, we'll roll this back a little bit so we can't see anything. Perfect. I've had to completely redo this. Stop licking my hand, please. Jesus. So this is what we've got, and then we added this plane. Okay, you're fine. We've added this plane at an angle. We have a sketch here. Right. So this is the additional bit that we need for this, where it goes into the frame. Okay. So I had to delete everything because I've redone this loft where I want to mold all of these pieces back into the front again. So if we redo this loft here, we now have, we'll get rid of these sketches because they're a bit ugly. Stay here, doggy. We now have, I guess, probably doesn't look very right, but I think it is right. Because that's the profile we had before. We still see that from the front, but from the side, if you imagine now, that's going to be vertical, and we're going to have our forks somewhere like this. Whereas before, where this was sat, there was a big gap, and it wouldn't have looked right, or it was going to be pointing and it's going to be pointing to the ceiling. So, by putting that bit on, we're allowing this to sit properly, and then it goes and it gets hidden beneath. So, side profile looks quite ugly on this CAD model, but I actually think that that's right. I've made this bit slightly smaller on the back. I might even make it even slightly smaller again to maybe just make it more streamlined. I'm not sure, but from the front it still looks exactly the same, which is exactly what we wanted with this. So next though, I need to figure out, and I'm not going to do it in this video, I need to just shell the whole thing out. I will try and do that in this video actually. Let's just shell it out. It's frozen, and on that note, we're just going to leave this. I still need to edit this. It's not actually as exciting as I thought it was going to be, whilst it is helpful to kind of show you some of the stuff I'm working on and the thought process that goes behind it. There's actually a lot of trial and error, so yeah, for this, I think I've solved the problem. I'm going to get this 3D printed with when I get down the road at Christmas time. Hopefully get a day down there and can get the thing 3D printed and come back up the road with it. So we should hopefully see something in the next couple of days. This is still not final yet. There's still mounting points to be put in and everything else, but even if we get through the next iteration of this, it tells a story as to how we've gone from this awful, god awful, where is it, gone from this to this, to then something a bit cooler. So it's progressed quite nicely already. So we've gone from this turd to this to something that's going to change again. Hopefully I'm going to have a nicer version of this soon using my CAD model, and we shall be able to start thinking about how we want to mount it to the lights and everything else. I think I said there's going to be a few iterations. It's going to be probably one and then another one after that that we'll probably use as the final, but I know the middle one's not going to be the final thing, purely because I might change my mind. When I see this big snaky looking thing, it might not actually look that nice. So yeah, we're getting there with this. The yokes need redesigned. We'll talk about the yokes. We'll talk about the yokes next episode actually. That shouldn't be too much physical stuff in the bike, so it should be an easy enough episode to get out. So we'll talk about the yokes next, but until next time, take it easy guys. Releasing this around about Christmas time. Have a nice Christmas, have a nice New Year, and we'll catch up with you in the New Year where hopefully everyone's projects are progressing, including my own, because it's kind of been a bit stagnant and I feel like I've got a bit of motivation to get moving with it. So take it easy guys, see you soon.